Hey, it's Judymay Murphy here. How are you all doing? As promised, we're going to be talking this week about how is it that you can set achievable goals, given that you identify as being someone who is more timid, more sensitive. Perhaps you would use the term codependent with yourself, someone who is more interested in pleasing others in order to keep yourself safe rather than running the risk of displeasing them in order that you might be able to make your own goals happen, your own dreams come true. Perhaps it's that you identify as having complex PTSD, that you had a tough childhood that makes it harder for you to push forward. If you're the kind of person who doesn't seem to be able to lean in without passing out, then this video is exactly for you. So how is it that we do this? So first of all, there are loads of really great videos out there about how to set and achieve goals. Brilliant stuff. The thing is that for us, we've got to do like an extra little layer. We've got to look at it from a slightly different viewpoint, given the way that we are, the way that our behaviors tend to be. That's not saying that those behaviors will be there for life, but for a lot of them, I don't imagine that in this lifetime I'm ever going to be someone who is super tough and able to go out there and yell at people or, just stand my ground until I get what I want. And I don't even think that I'm going to be the kind of person who will always get the best deal, or the kind of person who will be able to do that thing that we talked about before of, get up at 6 in the morning and do your incantations. And I mean, I'm up early. I'm up at like 5 most mornings, but it's a very, very gentle start. So if you do identify as the kind of person who is, maybe quieter and more thoughtful, more introverted, sensitive, maybe you have tried things before and you've become completely overwhelmed, or perhaps it's that you just are starting again and you feel like you're sort of lacking in confidence. So if you feel like you're not one of these kind of gung-ho, yeah, take the mountain kind of people, then don't worry, it doesn't mean that you're going to get less. It doesn't mean that your life is going to be less and that you're going to have to forego the good stuff that's out there, because that's just not true. You don't have to wait until you're completely healed. Remember, you're the expert on you. So if at any stage something isn't feeling right to you, you just get a chance to stop and say, okay, what is it about this? Do I just need to go and eat something? Do I need a nap? Do I need to leave this for another day? This idea that unfortunately is out there that it has to happen now, not like this is the only time, otherwise you're gonna lose it forever. Do you want to be a loser? That doesn't work for us. It works for a small percentage of the population really well. It works for a larger percentage of the population pretty well. People like us, it doesn't work at all. It just leaves us feeling kind of ashamed of who we are. It makes us think that, because we can't do success in the way that culturally it's putting out there that we need to do it. Did that sentence make sense? But you know what I'm saying? That there's a certain received wisdom, and I'm not even sure if it is wisdom, but a certain idea of how success is supposed to happen in this era. And it just doesn't tally with who most of us who are on this chat seem to, who we are and what it is that we want to do and how it is that we want to do things. Because success isn't just about getting stuff, putting stuff in place and then you'll feel good. It's about leading a successful life, and that is your definition of success. What is success for you? And the idea is that every day lives out beautifully, not just that you have to, suffer, avoid a nervous breakdown, and then you get the stuff. So let's get into it. When it comes to setting goals, when it comes to you putting a vision in place for this is what I want to make happen in my life next, already at this juncture, we have a situation where when we are so focused on other people, we sometimes don't know what it's like to have a goal that's just for us, to want something just for us. So a lot of the people that I coach are codependent, and a lot of them are already very high achievers, but they do have that idea of, others first and me last. That's how I will be happy, by making other people happy. So if I ask someone, what kind of a car would you like to drive? They will often say something like, oh, I want to drive a such and such because my son loves those. I want a Tesla car because my son loves Tesla. Or, I want to drive a such and such because my husband says that that's the safest kind of car to drive. Or it could be, that this idea of, I want to live in a beautiful, really, really luxurious place, but oh my goodness, what about all the people who don't have anywhere to live? I can't possibly live in a beautiful, luxurious place when they don't have anywhere to live at all. And so what we have to do is we have to set our goals from a presumption that everybody else on the planet is okay and isn't watching what we're doing. I know that's kind of a big one, isn't it? Because we know that people are watching what we're doing. We feel often very, very self-conscious, and it's important that we just get rid of that while we're doing the goal setting. Now, we can then check in and we can ask ourselves, what is it that's happening here? And we can kind of do a level of that afterwards. But for the first part, we have to say to ourselves, this is what it is that we want to do. I'm just checking here that the camera's okay, because it seems to me to be going in and out of focus. Don't know if that's me going in and out of focus or if that is the camera. Hopefully it's all good. So when you're setting your goals, ask yourself this question. What if no one was watching? What if because often our ancestors, people who've passed away, we feel like we have to please them. When we were younger, we set up this idea of who we were based on their expectations for us. We were trained into certain roles. And so if we feel like we want to go and become like a dancer on the stage, or we want to just go on a year-long road trip, and we had a grandmother who passed away years and years ago, and her idea was that it was really important to be dutiful and to be showing up, working every single day, and that doing something like going off on a road trip was really irresponsible and would lead to your ultimate demise. Well, then you've got to check in with that, and you've got to sort of maybe set two goals. Okay, this is my grandmother's goal for me, or this is my goal for me when I am trying to please my grandmother, and this is my goal for me when I'm just pleasing me. And it'll be a little bit tricky, because that idea of us just pleasing ourselves, just doing what will bring joy to ourselves, is pretty new for most of us, or is, it feels a little bit squeaky. It feels a little bit awkward. It's like, well, how do I even do that? What is that? And this is why it's so important that we as codependents, as highly sensitive people, as people who have CPTSD, this is why we need to revise our goals even more frequently than other people do. Because in the goal setting process, we're getting to meet ourselves. We're getting to identify, who am I? Who am I for me? Not like, who am I for the world? How can I be of service? But just level playing field. What is it that I want? And for some people, that whole idea of, doing something that you want can just put you into a massive shame attack. You can just spiral downwards and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst person in the world. Because when you were younger, this idea of you wanting something was kind of trained out of you. You would have, it probably even happened at the pre-verbal stage. Even before you understood what was being said to you, you got this idea communicated back to you that you wanting something was a pain in the ass. That you wanting to be fed was just like, oh God, again, this child. They didn't delight in you when you wanted something. And with everybody, there's an element of that, because parenting is such a tough job. But if you, were in a family that was quite dysfunctional and there was a lot of neglect or a lack of ability to really relate to you as a child, then, this idea of wanting something can lead to you just feeling awful. You feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst person in the world. And you can kind of get re-triggered into that. So be really gentle around yourself when you are setting goals. In a really, really practical level, have the blanket ready. Have the cup of green tea or whatever it is that you like ready beside you, so that you can make you feel good. Have that, maybe if there's like a comedy show you like to watch, have that ready to watch afterwards, so that you can sort of bring yourself back from the abyss of, oh my goodness, how dare you even want anything on this planet, let alone all the super good stuff. So that's the first thing, is to look at that you, as you are setting goals, you are healing. You are doing an exercise that is enabling you to look at, well, who am I for me? Who am I when I'm not trying to please others? And allowing that any feelings of shame that come up and just, they're coming up this time to be healed. You know what? It's okay for me to want that. There's no guarantee I'm going to get it, but it's okay for me to want it, and it's okay for me to go for it in a really, really big way. So the next thing I'd like you to look at is, a lot of you will have heard for the last 10 years or more, gosh, 15 years now, people have been really into creating dream boards. And that's awesome. A dream board is basically where you get all these images together of things that you want to achieve in your life, and you stick them on a board and you put them up in a place where you can look at them every single day. Brilliant, awesome, except for us, okay? We need a little tweak on that, because again, if we're just looking at that stuff, it can feel like something that is so far beyond. If we're used to just kind of being more servile and doing things for others, and not focusing on us and looking after us, it can feel like fantasy land. So rather than going for the really huge big stuff, the best way for us to create a dream board is next level. What's the next stage of thing that you want to make happen? So instead of putting up on your vision board, the Swiss chalet and the Porsche Boxster and do people still drive those? I don't even know. Whatever it is for you, instead of putting up that stuff, instead say to yourself, well, right now I'm not really happy with my computer, and just put up a picture like of an Apple Mac or something. And then another next phase, well, you know what, I don't really like my wardrobe. And so I would love to have like one outfit that costs £1,000. Great, put up a picture of that. So don't do the sort of the really big heady stuff, because if you're not used to thinking of yourself as entitled, the way a lot of more narcissistic people will, it will just be too big a leap. And you'll get discouraged, and you won't then be training yourself that you can make these things happen. Whereas if you do something that's, still really exciting for you, and there's a smaller gap between where you are and where that is, then that is something that you can make happen. And then you can start to train yourself that, hey, you know what? I am more powerful than I think. I am more capable than I believe. Because a lot of us feel very powerless, because we give away our power all the time, emotionally and practically. And, we end up making other people's dreams come true. So that's how we can do it. Gosh, you know what? It is so hot here. I turned off the fan and the AC so that I could speak to you. We are in the middle of a heat wave. I'm speaking to you from Los Angeles, Hollywood just up the road, Burbank burning just up the road. Right. So the next part of a vision board is that, as well as having stuff that is next stage rather than huge, big, lifetime picture stuff, which you will get to, but you need to get to it a stage at a time. The next thing we need to look at is pictures of ourselves doing the thing. So, if you can just even draw it by hand, or find a way to Photoshop it, or just find a way, even if it's just a cut and paste job, like a literal cut it out and paste it on kind of thing, and you can show pictures of you being the boss, like you sitting in the prime position in a boardroom, you standing up and making a speech, you doing these things, because it's kind of an easier thing to visualize and go for the stuff, but it's a little bit trickier to visualize it feeling good to be asserting yourself. So put those things in the vision board as well. Whatever your next stage is for that. If it's something like you not standing off to one side at the school gate when you go to collect your kid, but instead standing there with the other parents, that's great. That needs to go on the vision board. If your next stage is maybe, because I know a lot of you who are watching this are kind of further along with the dream building stuff. So if your next phase is buying out the company, a picture of you doing that, a picture of you sitting around with those people actually signing those papers. So that's what's really, really important for those of us who don't feel like we're naturally entitled to this stuff. Getting used to this idea, getting used to the images of us building this stuff, of us actually doing the day-to-day practical work of making that happen. So the next thing then that we're going to look at is, so part of goal setting is visualizing it. And then the next part of it is taking those baby steps to make it happen. And a great thing to do is to look to sketch out for yourself what would be your ideal day, your ideal working day, because we all know what the ideal kind of not working days look like. It's not hard to go for that. But the ideal working day, what would that look like for you? Because a lot of people presume that in order to make dream stuff come true, that you're going to have to be putting in those like non-stop 12-hour days. You're going to have to be shouting really loudly. You're going to have to be dealing with tons and tons of people. And maybe, if you're like me, you don't like dealing with a lot of people. Maybe you get exhausted by that. Maybe you're the kind of person who kind of gets replenished and energized by ideas. So you need to put that in place. So with my staff, what I have is I've got like one person who I check in with. and she will go, and I don't have big teams. Like I kind of like hire people in as I need them. So I'll have like maybe two people who are working for me all the time, and then other people who are doing stuff as and when I need it. And I will just check in with the people that I know and I'm comfortable with, and I'll get them to manage the others. If there's anything that's more difficult that needs to be communicated, I will work it out on the day. Well, is that something I feel I can cope with right now? Or is it a little bit late in the day and I just feel kind of twitchy at the thought of it? Great, I'll get, whoever it is to have that conversation instead. So if you can look at what would my ideal workday be like, would I be indoors or outdoors? A lot of us are very sensitive to noise. So for me, it's very important that I'm able to retreat and go home and just work from home. Super important. Put that into your vision of how it's going to be. And then you can sort of do the tweaks of, well, how would that work? And it might be something like, well, it works in a way that I've got people that I really, really trust. I've got someone who works with me for years, so I'm not constantly having to be around new people. So I need to focus right now on finding one person and communicating to them that I want them to be around for decades. So the way that you then move forward will be different, knowing what it is that you're going for. Because when I started out building a business, I started to think that I had to do it the way that the other people were doing it. The more kind of pushy people, the more outgoing, the people with fight, the more narcissistic people. Not saying that people who have more fight are necessarily more narcissistic. They're not. It's just easier. But I felt I had to do it their way. So I immediately got myself an office, and it was very loud, and I hired all the people that I needed, and I started to put on my own events and started to sell tickets. And you know what? I was a mess. I was a wreck. Couldn't do it. Just could not handle it. And so then I decided, you know what? I don't want to sell tickets at all, because I want to be able to sleep at night. I don't want to be worrying about how many people are in the room. So now I just have various people around the world, various promoters who then hire me to come in, and it's their job to panic if there's only 800 rather than 1,000 in the room. So, job done. So look at that. What is your ideal way of doing what you do? Do you want to do it? Some people have managed to build huge empires from a state of absolute seclusion. That they have their way, that they connect with the world. They're not, just being completely hermit-like. They're not self-isolating, because that's something that we don't want to do. We want to be connected, but we do have to be a lot more careful with who we're connected to. Another thing is, a lot of people, for those of you who don't know, I'm a professional motivational speaker. I have been for the last 17 years, and I've written a bunch of books and do all that stuff. But the point is this, that, in my industry, there's some of the people, usually guys, and they love to go out and do loads of photographs. I usually do photographs with people in the audience, and I remind them that this isn't me as the powerful person. This is just a reminder of how powerful you are, us getting our photograph taken together. But a lot of the guys would just love it, and they will just roam up and down, and they will talk to loads of people, and they will do endless photographs. I can't do that. I have to conserve my energy. And even just in a green room, if the green room is too busy, I often work out with the promoters, if it's on in a hotel where they'll give me a room in that hotel that I can use during that day, just to be able to go and escape and be on my own. But these are all the things that you can put in place, because you'll think ahead of time, this is what is going to be important to me. Let's imagine that you are a real estate agent, and that you sell multi-million-dollar homes, and that that once you've actually done the showing of the home, if someone's interested, you won't have enough people energy in order to be able to do the sitting down and going over the financials. So you have to make sure that you have someone with you right there and then who can then just jump in, or maybe someone sitting out in the car doing other stuff on their laptop, and the second that you need them, they're ready to jump in and do the bit that you no longer have energy to do. Because particularly, if you are a spoonie, if you're someone, that's a term for people who are ill, sort of long-term illnesses, maybe it's something congenital, maybe it's something recent, but you have to really conserve your energy during the day. That comes from a popular story about how someone explained to their friend what it was like being them by putting a certain amount of spoons into a cup. And they said, I get up, take out one spoon. I make my breakfast, take out another spoon. The idea of, that once we are done with our spoons, once we're done with our allotted energy, we don't have extra energy. We don't have like the testosterone or maybe the dopamine to get excited. We don't have that way of pushing through. If we push through, we just can't handle it, and we're then not good for the next day. So this is why we need to work out what is our ideal. What is it? How is it that we're going to work? And then we can start to put in place our next steps from that. So there we go, stage one. So hopefully you can start to see how this is possible, but you do need to do certain little tweaks. And another thing as well is then before you start working it, put it aside, because we often need a little bit more time to process, a little bit more time to work out, is that what I really want, or is it something else? Is it more? Is it different? Is it less? Is it, what is it that I really want? So maybe don't start to action it immediately. I know there's a lot of people, they go to events and they come up and they're all excited and they're saying, I've already made 12 phone calls around this, woohoo, I've already set up my company, I've already hired this person, and those of us who can't do that, just because of the way we are, we feel less than. We feel like, oh my God, everyone else is getting started and I'm left behind. No, it's not the case. Because we take more time to process, it's good. We tend to make fewer mistakes. We tend to, end up where we really want to be, rather than being those people that run super fast in wrong directions. I know so many people, there's loads of people I coach, and they come to me because they're like, oh my gosh, I've made the entire dream come true and now I'm not happy. Now what do I do? Like, is that all there is? So you're not going to be one of those people, because you're really going to make the connection now between your fulfillment and who you are on this planet and what your goals are, what your vision is. And just check and find out, do you feel good about this? Do you actually feel good about it? Do you feel not just that heady kind of good, that sort of like rush of, oh my God, I'm going to make this happen? Because we can't sustain on that. More dopamine driven people, they can sustain on that. People who are more just into the pure excitement of life. I always think of Cameron Diaz when I think of that kind of person, the person who's just like, woohoo, let's go. She's just awesome. But if you, if you're not that, you've got to ask yourself, do I feel content in this as well as excited? Can I kind of like sit back and get cozy with this? Because for us, if we're just in that place of heady excitement for too long, again, our systems can't take it, our bodies just can't take it, and it all kind of breaks down. And that's then, if we go into recovery from that, that's when, it starts to feel like depression. Whereas really what it is just us trying to get back our equilibrium, just get back in a place of feeling too good, recovering from being overstimulated. We can't handle as much stimulation as others can. We want it. We want as much excitement and we want as much cool stuff as others, but our bodies just can't handle it. And, our gut starts to clench up. We start to, our palms start to sweat. We get dry mouth. We get just, we then kind of take ourselves at home and we say, oh, when we get home, we wish we were back where we were, but we couldn't handle it, and all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you can relate to that. That's why you're here. But this is what we need to make sure of, is that we can feel not just excited, but also a much more calm kind of contentment around it. Yeah, you know what? This is good. This works for me. I like this. I will love to be in this space looking around me and going, yeah, you know what? I did this, and I did it as me. And I did it in a way that was gentle to my soul. I did it in a way that didn't break me, didn't freak me out, didn't make me feel less than. And that's what we're doing here. Healing success is about healing through the success, as well as creating success while we're healing. So there's we're kind of meeting it from both ends. And as I say, the most important part of your healing in this process is just you meeting you getting to identify you as a person who is also worthy of things, without going into a massive shame attack and feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't even deserve this, and even if you go into that place, just say to yourself, okay, so what if I don't deserve it? What would the dream be anyway? If I did deserve it, if maybe one day I learned how to, maybe in a small way, come to deserve this and feel a little bit good about it, what might it look like? All right, be good to yourself and know that everything on this planet was also put there for you. I adore you guys, huge hugs, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Take care.